Hey guys, wanted to do a little update video while I wait for my Mac to install its latest software update. So, as you guys know, sealed supply is still pretty low. There's not a lot of booster boxes. There's been no collection boxes released. Crown Zenith ETBs and the Regidrago and the Regieleki, they sold out really quickly. So we now wait for the next round of Crown Zenith, which is the Pikachu boxes and, of course, the mini tins. We're going to get those a little bit later than usual. I had to delay my shipment from distribution, so I should have those in the start of March. We'll see if the supply gets gobbled up the same way the ETBs got gobbled up. We sold out basically immediately. I've been doing a lot of work on singles activities. Singles activities including going to trade night, making sure I use eBay to sell some of my graded cards that have a lot of value, and just sort of trying to make sure that the store continues to become, continues to be relevant in this period of low supply. We've done a couple of collection buys and also big collection trades. An example we have is we recently took in about $500 worth of singles in exchange for a single PSA 10 Charizard V. We tried to do a video about that, but the video didn't work out. We've actually had another failed video where my equipment failed and we lost all the audio. So, but we're gonna have some fun opening videos soon. Kai and I did some openings of some battle stadiums, which are a neat product. But before that, I want to talk about that big trade. So we traded a PSA 10 Charizard V for about $500 worth of singles. It was a very good deal. I was happy because it added a bunch of singles to the store and people were able to buy and work on their collections, helped a few people out. And that person got their trophy card. Well, their chase card, which was a Charizard V PSA 10. And the funny thing is, this person also traded in that Charizard V. We went ahead and graded it, and he wanted it back after it got graded. So the circle of life in terms of Pokemon collecting. So we did that trade, and it was great. So last night, I got a call or a contact from this collector. Stuff happens in life, and they they had a problem, and they needed to have money, and they asked me if I would buy back the PSA 10 Charizard V for $500. And I thought, and this is Canadian, guys, and I thought to myself, ooh, tempting. But the problem with that particular Charizard is, I had it for a while. I had it for a month, and I couldn't sell it. And it was just sort of sticking. So, and also there was a big freeze event here in Nova Scotia, and I also had a pipe freeze and actually lost some Pokemon product due to the flood. Well, due to the leak. My pipes froze, stuff burst, I had to rip open a wall. So kind of cash poor right now, and I couldn't really buy back that at full price. I mean, I would have certainly given them store credit at 75%. And that leads us into the topic for the day. Now that this sealed supply is pretty low, working on singles, I've considered the different ways in which you can sell Pokemon cards. Now, we have a store, we have a website, and for us, it's great. So we post our inventory, and people get a chance to peruse it and choose the cards they want. We're a store, and that's how it works. Now, if you're an individual collector and you need to sell some cards, there's a few avenues that you can take, and I want to talk about each of those avenues and possibly present some information that people don't think of when they think of Pokemon cards and when they think of a liquidity. So let's take that 500 Charizard V as an example. Now, I didn't sell that on eBay. I did it in person trade, so great idea to do that. But I sold recently a Iridia PSA 10 Japanese, which is highly sought after waifu card. And the final price, including, and it went back to Japan, the final price including shipping was like $480 plus $20 shipping. So the total amount I sold that card on eBay was $500. So then you get a summary from eBay on actually how much you made. So eBay collected $80 in fees from that transaction. The fees were eBay's normal 12.9% fee that they take. They charged an international fee because it was going to Japan, and they charged taxes. So that's your $80. Now, selling to Japan, I don't think really would have been taxed the full amount because we're not collecting GST for stuff that is going to Japan, but they collected about $10.36 in GST HST, and I don't know where that came from. Really, there should have been no GST HST collected for that transaction. It gets charged to the seller, by the way. So, in this case, so of course I sold $500 card. I ended up only getting, or I will only get once the transaction clears, $420. So they took $80, and I have to pay $25 to ship to Japan. So my net from selling a $500 card on eBay was $395. Okay, wow, $500 card. I only get like $400 for that. Another example I'll give you, I sold this one locally. I sold this one here in Canada, was a Lugia V Alt-Art PSA 9. So the final sale price on that was 305 Canadian. eBay's fees and taxes, they take $52, $51.48. So my net on that one from a $300 sale is $220. The reason for that is, well, I get $250, but I still have to ship it, and I have to use tracking. So another $20 here in Canada just to ship things. So my net from a $300 sale, $225. So again, that's the 12.9% fees on any eBay things. That's them, collecting the GST, HST on my behalf. Thanks a bunch. So eBay is kind of not the best place in the world to sell. The best place, and I'll tell you now, is probably in person. If you're going to sell a card, as an individual, the best way for you to sell a card is to get cash. Now, in Canada, we have electronic funds transfer, so it's pretty easy to move $500 cash around. There are challenges with in-person sales, and I'll talk to those in a second. The other option is to sell it on Facebook. So if you're going to be selling it to a stranger across the country, you may still get your $500, but you're actually going to have to pay PayPal goods and services fees. You're going to have to take that into account. You're going to have to make sure you do ship with tracking, because you won't get your PayPal goods and services fees until that item gets delivered. So that's your second option, which is paying, selling on Facebook and using PayPal goods and services. I, as Rattle would say, do not recommend using or paying with formats that doesn't allow a guarantee. So it doesn't allow you to get your money back if if something goes wrong. And with shippings, so something like a $500 card, you really don't want to just use, registered mail. You want to have insurance on a $500 card, because it could get destroyed, lost. You want to have insurance on that $500 card. And registered mail does not give you insurance. So let's talk about that $500 transaction. In person, $500 cash. You made the full quantity you could make from that transaction. The next one is the Facebook. So let's say you get a $500 price on Facebook. Well, you have to pay the goods and services fee for PayPal. So that's about 3%. So your net is only going to be $385. You need to ship it, so you need to pay that $25 in shipping across the country. So your net is about $465 from that $500 card. That's still pretty good if you're trying to offload that $500 card. eBay, as I mentioned before, sell it for $500. Tons of fees. So you end up with about $395. The fourth option is selling it back to a store. There's a lot of stores that will give you 75% of the value of the item in cash, specifically if it's a PSA 10. Yeah, you could trade that into a store and get your $375 immediately. And also with a store, you might even get store credit. So if the store has something you want, might be able to put it against a purchase for your own collection. So those are your three options: cash in person, online through PayPal Goods and Services, eBay, or directly to a store. Now, the pros and cons of those four ways to liquidate that $500 card. Let's talk first about cash. You need to find a local buyer. You need to be able to meet this person at your LGS. You got to meet this person online. You got to meet this person in person. And you have to find someone in your local area who wants this card and who's willing to pay that. So you have some challenges finding that person who's going to buy. So that's one of the cons of selling in person. The next is the risk. You're showing up with a $500 card. Do you know this person? Do they have a reputation? Are you taking a risk being in person? So that's another problem with selling in person. The pros of selling in person is you get the max value for your card. If you can find that person who wants to buy that card, it's the best case scenario. Second is shipping across country. Now, I mentioned there's a little bit more fees if you're going to sell it to someone on Facebook or Instagram. You have to do a little bit more legwork. Because it's across the country, it's going to be a little bit easier to find someone who's willing or wanting that $500 card. Local, it's Canada. The markets are all small everywhere. There's the big ones like British Columbia, Vancouver, there's Toronto, there's, Quebec. But, if you think of Nova Scotia, you think of New Brunswick or PEI or Newfoundland. Even Calgary or Edmonton. Those are big cities, but most people don't live in those big places where you can find that person in person. Find that person in person. So, a bit of a challenge there, trying to find that person. So you have to resort to Facebook. You have to go and find that person, and you have to sort of check them out. Are they going to screw you? And the way to avoid getting screwed when you're doing an international or a national transaction, use Goods and Services for PayPal. It's probably the best thing. The way Goods and Services is they get a 3% fee, which is not fees, it's worth it. You get seller protection, buyer protection, and the money gets exchanged, put up front. They become your middleman. PayPal is the trusted person who will hold the money until that item's delivered. Now, you can still get screwed. You can still, someone could send you a package that doesn't even include the big purchase. It's still scary, and you have to work with PayPal and all that fun stuff. But it's an extra layer of protection for selling online. And you do get a good value. If you're selling PayPal Goods and Services, you're basically also maxing out how much you can get of that $500 of that $500 card. So that's the second one, PayPal Goods and Services. The third one is eBay. So you can put it on eBay, you can wait, you have to compete against the other people who are selling that same card for maybe $1 less, $4.95. You might have to put your price at $4.95. But the worst thing about eBay is they will take their cut, and their cut is no small potato. 13% on a $500 transaction it's $80. It's a lot. You'll also see taxes getting charged, so there's a little bit of friction in terms of a person buying that $500 card when they're paying taxes. And as a store, you have to collect GST and HST. But as an individual, these single transactions, if you're in person, $500, I don't think they're going to kick you for, not claiming that HST or not charging that HST if you're an individual, not a business. Now, then there is, the other thing about eBay is you have the competition, you have the fees, and not everybody is wanting to wait. You also have to ship, so you have to make sure that you're paying that shipping fee and that tracked shipping fee. You can't really use the $500 card, you can't really use registered mail. So That's another con when you think about using eBay. Fees and the time required to sell, and reputation. Do you have a big eBay reputation yet? Are people going to be hesitant to buy from you because they can't see your rep? Similar problem with Facebook, selling in person, but yeah, eBay is probably, well, the second worst way to liquidate your card. And the last one is selling to a store. Now, you'll get the least amount of money when you trade in that $500 card to a store. They might give you 75% of its value. The challenge there is, you're not going to see the value if you trade it in. So that person who had that $500 slab and comes back to me and says, hey, can I get $500 for this? As a store, I have to say no. I have to say, I can only pay you 75% of that, because then I have to take it and I have to go and sell it. And where am I going to sell it? Well, I could sell it on the store. As I mentioned, it sat for about a month last time. I can sell it on eBay, where I'm going to take a gutting on those fees. I can try to sell it in person, but why would I buy a slab if you could go and sell it in person too? So that's a problem too. So that's why I couldn't take that person's $500 slab. I could give them store credit, no problem. But in terms of taking it, I just couldn't. But it's fast. I mean, if you wanted to come to me and say, can I get 75% of this value of the slab? I'll say yes. I'll buy it from them. But if you're looking for 100%, as stores can't offer 100% of the value. It's just not possible, because they have all the same fee problems that you will. They might have a little more visibility in the market, a little more trust, but the biggest benefit of selling to a store is speed. You show up, you show them what you got, they'll give you the money. That's where selling to a store has an advantage over the other three methods. It's a lot less work for you to sell to a store. You could potentially trade it in for store credit. And so that $500 card, the best way to sell it is really going to depend on you. Will you do the work to sell it in person? Will you take the fee cut to sell it to eBay? Will you do the work to sell it on Facebook Instant? Liquidating that $500 card to fix that repair. How do you do it? First option, try to sell it to someone in person. Second option, try to find a buyer online and pay those goods and services fees, pay that shipping fee, make sure it's insured. Third option, eBay. You're going to pay a lot of eBay fees, and eBay is going to hold on to your money for a little while. You're not going to be able to quickly flip that. Fourth option, sell it to a store. You're not going to get the full value of your card, but it's going to be fast. You're going to get it pretty much immediately. There you go. If you're liquidating a card and you need the money quickly, you got to look at those four different options. Finding the buyer and shipping, using eBay to sell, or third, going to a store and quickly getting your money. There's pros and cons to all of them. Whatever, you have to choose the one that works best for you.